Hi, my name is Harrison Litzel. I'm the pastor of Emerging Generations here at the Faith Community in Atlanta. And this is Pause, a day of grieving after 2 years of COVID. Today, March 13th, is 2 years since March 13th, 2020. That was a Friday. That was a day that a national emergency was declared in the United States. And that was the day for me. I remember it was a Friday, and I work at a preschool, and that day we had off. That Friday we had off. I was also a student at the time, and I was supposed to be in class that day. I was supposed to be in class on that Friday, and classes got canceled. And that was the first day I remember thinking, this this is really going to change some things. There had already been a few things that had happened up to that point. March 11th was when the WHO declared a worldwide pandemic. That was when the NBA postponed their season. There were so many other things that had happened, but that Friday, March 13th, was the first time that I was planning on seeing people, and I didn't because of COVID. My wife and I were going to get takeout that night, and I remember trying to decide whether it was safe to go into the restaurant. There was just all of these unknowns and fears and anxieties, and it was from that point that things kind of snowballed a little bit. We had stay-at-home orders, and we got things delivered to our homes, and we didn't know who we could see, and we had the first time wearing masks, and there at the beginning, for just a little bit, it felt like the world slowed down a little bit. It felt like people were gathering together emotionally, that we were working towards this end together of stopping the spread, of flattening the curve. But then the pace kind of picked back up again. We got back to work, we got back to everything we were doing, but everything was different. Everything we did was this risk calculation of whether it was safe to do this for yourself, for your neighbor, for your friend, for your family, who you're able to see. And I just feel like things just kept getting faster and faster and faster until we were back up to full speed, without really having the time to reflect on everything we lost, the people we lost, the opportunities, the livelihoods. Um, and so we wanted to have this day, 2 years later, March 13th, 2022, we wanted to have this day to pause and to slow down and to acknowledge that grief, to acknowledge that we are grieving, and there are things to mourn. There are things to feel sorrow about. When we grieve, that lets us know what we value, right? If we lose something, we feel that grief, we feel that sadness, it lets us know that we valued that thing. And so by acknowledging our grief, we're acknowledging what we value. And that's a spiritual practice. That's something that tells us more about ourselves, more about how we interact with our world and with God, how we interact with others. So that's what we're going to do today, is to acknowledge that grief. Throughout today, we're going to have 5 videos that will be a little bit shorter, kind of like this one, where we'll have different folks from the faith community talking about grief, what they're grieving, ways to cope with grief. And then at 7 o'clock tonight, March 13th, we are going to have a live stream. It'll be about 30 minutes, and that'll just be a little bit more about ways to cope with grief, ways to acknowledge what it is we're feeling, acknowledge what it is that we've lost, but maybe ways to reckon with that, move forward, even with that grief still with us. Thank you for joining us today. We hope that this serves you well. We hope that this is helpful to you. And we look forward to spending this day together in community, even as we recognize all that we've lost.